So here's the 2019 Z400. I loved the Ninja 400. It's a sportier version of what we're seeing here. And so with this, I'm wondering if it's just as good except more comfortable to ride. We've got a nice upright seating position, no fairings, it's that naked look. But everything else is the same as the Ninja 400. So I was very curious to see how it feels or if anything did change from it. And that's why I'm going to be talking about it. The tail end of the motorcycle is exactly the same as the Ninja 400. So no differences there. The exhaust is the same. Like the back end of the bike is identical from the Ninja 400. Obviously it looks different now. And then the front end is completely different. But you still get the LED headlight up front. And it looks good. I mean, I'm not a fan of this style of headlight right now because the round ones, those retro cool look so good. So I kind of wish Kawasaki would move on from this style of headlight, but it does look pretty good. So if you're still into this sort of look, this is perfect for you. But if you want that retro look, you're gonna have to go with that Honda CB300R, which is a great bike, but it is not 400 cc's like the Z400. The dash is pretty simple, but I do like how they've designed it. And your tachometer here is all digital, which is kind of nice how they did that. It's kind of neat. The screen is not color or anything fancy like that, like the KTM 390 Duke, but it's still very visible. It's still good, so I like it. It's got the basic, trip and fuel consumption. And so it's a good design for what it is, but could be a little better based on other stuff that I do see with some comparable bikes. The brakes are the single disc up front with ABS, which is a great feature, both ABS front and rear, and also squeezing the brakes, they feel good. They get progressively stiffer as you stop, and the brakes just feel good all around. They do not feel soft and spongy at all. So when you're doing some hard braking or just some soft braking, you always feel very, very confident in what it's able to do. And the rear brake, it has a disc in the rear as well. And when you're using both brakes at the same time, you're stopping very, very quickly. Storage is very limited, but you do have enough for a kryptonite lock here. As we see, we got in here a little bit of room underneath for your papers. And then my favorite is the pull loop right there, which will release the rear seat, which makes it really easy. I wish all bikes had this. So the Ninja 400 has this, so does the Z400, because it's the same tail section. So that's great engineering. Tires are the Dunlop Sportmax GPR 300s, and I love these tires. I see them on other bikes as well, like the new small CC bikes, and they're better stock tires than anything else that's come out recently. Of course, you can get better Michelins or Pirellis in this size, but for a stock tire, this is a good tire. I've had them out on the track, and I have no problems with the grip whatsoever. And I can be pretty spirited out there. So good, solid feeling from these tires. So riding this motorcycle has been a lot of fun. I did not want to give up my Ninja 400 because I enjoyed it so much. But when I did that big, longer trip on it, I did feel cramped. Now with this bike, that's not going to happen. I still can feel a little cramped, and I'm going to get on here in a second, show you what it looks like with my 6'2" frame on there, as well as a shorter rider as well, because it fits shorter riders great. But riding it around, it feels just as good as the Ninja 400, and since I'm more comfortable on it, it feels even better. The handling is great. The suspension is definitely more firm than a lot of smaller bikes. The CB300R has got a very stiff suspension, and so does this. So I really like how Kawasaki has set the standard with this type of suspension and all the other features. All the other manufacturers really have to step up their game to match the comfort, feel, and confidence this motorcycle gives you. Now this has the standard sight glass to check the oil, so that makes it easy. Changing the oil is going to be no problem because it's naked, there's no fairings. So you just grab the bolt that's underneath there. The oil filter, really easy to get at. Yeah, it's exposed, it's right there, easy to go. The radiator, very exposed. So not a bad idea to maybe get that covered up with a metal grate if one exists, but being that this is a new motorcycle, maybe it doesn't. Checking the coolant, very easy. As on the inside here, you can see your coolant level. So that's about the easiest, most visible coolant check that I've seen. So that's a nice thing. The brake fluid is on the other side of the bike, so you can't check it while you ride. So a bit of a safety feature there. So lots of well thought out things on this bike.
So how well does this motorcycle fit riders? Well, first we'll put someone on here who's 5'2" or 158 centimeters. Courtney, have a seat. And I want to give a big thanks to Courtney because this is her bike. And she rides it because for being 5'2" and 158 centimeters, that's pretty good. Like her feet are almost flat footing to the ground. And that's a good confidence booster if you are shorter and you want to ride. And so that's a great combo.
All right, so how do I fit on this motorcycle? I'm 6'2", about 190 centimeters. So when I throw a leg over this and sit on it, I'm pretty comfortable. Stand the bike up here. I'm definitely flat-footed in this, but it feels very comfortable for me. The only thing that's going to get me is the wind coming at me, as there's a lot more to hit here. But if you're shorter or you're taller, this bike is good to go. That's good. So final verdict on this bike is I love it just as much as the Ninja 400, maybe even more so since it's more comfortable to ride. Now with the lack of a bigger windscreen, it can get windy, so your head might move around a little bit. But if you're going to do a lot of highways, then maybe you do want a bigger windscreen. Or the Ninja 400, but you may have to deal with being a little cramped up. But as far as a new rider bike, this is one of the best. Because you've also got extra power to grow into. And so I'm sure just like the Ninja 400, the top speed on this would probably be 190 kilometers an hour, which is plenty fast enough. You just won't have the acceleration as big bikes do, but given that it is smaller, it's gonna be a lot cheaper to insure. So overall cost of this bike just to get into it is $5,800 Canadian or $4,800 US, which does put it at the higher end of a small CC bike, but you do get a lot of power to grow into, whereas some of the 300s or 250s are kind of feel limited. This one doesn't, so it's worth the cost. But that said, something like the Great Deal, which is a 2018 Suzuki GSX 250R, that's like half the cost of this with the incentives. So I mean, it's really up to your wallet. So if you can afford this bike or want to spend the money, you'll love it. But if you want to save some money, that's okay too, because this can cost a bit more, which may mean less money for gear and just overall riding. So get this bike, ride it. You'll ride it longer than you think, and even if you think you've outgrown it, you have not. Take it to the track, get it out there. It's going to perform very well out there, and you're going to learn so much on such a light feeling bike. Even though it weighs similar to everything else, it feels as if it's 100 pounds lighter. So I love it for that reason and many others. So go out there, ride it, enjoy it, and it'll be easy sell as well because it is such a desirable size and weight.